Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, the lovely, the talented Ms. Kindra Howard. How are you doing, Kindra?
I'm doing awesome.
Thank you for coming on the show. You and I have had the privilege of sitting around an executive table before, and I got to know you and I got to know your business. And I find it incredibly interesting what you do. And you've also been through an interesting transition as the business has transitioned from maybe being on the employee side to the owner side. So many things we could talk about today, but let's start with the foundation. You are the partner at Tricon Solutions. What is a Tricon Solutions? Let us into the tent and we'll start from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. Tricon is a consulting firm that specializes in project management and project delivery. We have been around for 20 years. This is our 20th birthday this year, so we're super excited.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're locally owned here in Calgary. We're fully woman-owned company that specializes in staffing. So, consulting, kind of staff augmentation kind of world, as well as professional services in that project space.
Amazing. Project management today seems so much like table stakes. I know so many people are getting their PMI. 20 years ago was a very different, how's the company, how long have you been involved? Let's start there.
So I started off as a consultant through Tricon, and that's how I came to know it. So that was probably about 8 or 10 years ago.
Okay.
I was first a consultant, and then I joined as an associate partner in 2020, February 2020. Like
right before, if we all know what happened in March.
And so, rode the roller coaster with the two partners at the time, and officially joined as a partner in, I think, April 2021.
Amazing. And just even from when you started, we'll just do a quick little history lesson around project management. How has that discipline evolved? And has that evolved even so much more quickly? I know there was a big bump during COVID where everyone was digitizing everything. Yeah. Project management isn't a new concept, but it feels like it's just being showcased or talked about or revered in a different way today than it even was 5 or 10 years ago. Or is that just me from the outside?
No, that's totally true. I would say, like, when I first started my career around 15 years ago, it was always a battle to justify why you needed a project manager on a project and why, like, you needed someone in charge and coordinating and keeping everyone accountable and all that.
Sounds so obvious when you say it out loud.
So important. But I mean, back then,
who needs to waste time with those things? Let's just let chaos reign.
Exactly. And there's still, a lot of organizations out there that do prefer that. But nowadays, I have to fight a lot less.
A little bit less, yeah.
Yeah, to justify.
Well, you can probably speak to the converted more so than trying to convert everyone.
Yeah.
And did COVID, obviously, was that a big boom, I guess, maybe to the business when it came to the fact that all of a sudden digital transformation became the buzzword of the day very quickly into COVID, where everything seemed to be under fire from a systems process, and short, everything needed to be digitized, it felt like.
Yeah, it was wild. So at first, there was so much uncertainty. And then every day and every week, it was, now there's this restriction. Now we're lifting them. It's summer. We want people to go on playgrounds again. No, wait, no, we're back again. And then, like, counting all the incidents and all that kind of stuff. So at the outset, it really sucked. Like, our business took a very big hit. I think we lost about 60% of our revenue in a week. And that was
wow. It was such a crazy time. And that really puts it into perspective, doesn't it?
And so we had to recoil, and we had to move things around a lot, and figure out, okay, how do we keep our staff? How do we keep things going during this time? And luckily, we were able to retain a good chunk of our staff. Obviously, we lost some
well, because you have a core team that operates, and then you have obviously a whole army of consultants that come in and out based on demand, based on client. And when you're fully engaged and when you've got kind of your full workforce potential out there in the world, how many is that?
So right now we're running about 80 consultants.
Okay.
But after the bust of COVID, there was a huge uptick, and we grew like 130% in a year. So we were,
I lost 60% in a week and then I grew 130. It's good to
mean,
remember both sides of that very multi-pronged sword.
yeah, yeah. So like when you're in that trough, it's like you will get out. And now that I've been through it, I have a lot more confidence that it's okay. We've been here before.
Yeah.
It'll come back. Things, with tariffs right now, who knows what's going to happen? But I take solace in knowing
I know
I've been through
this
COVID.
is This is April Fool's Day, so we didn't start with an April Fool's. But
No.
the current next big day is tomorrow. So no matter what we talk about today, it will be outdated by the time this goes live.
Exactly.
Because I was listening to somebody again out of the US, just like stop making predictions because we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
No.
And as a business client or vendor side, uncertainty is death.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just being able to like know thyself and know that, during tough times, we can navigate it. We've got the tools, we've got the experience, we can get through it. So yeah, during like after the bust, when things boomed and digital transformation was all the rage, we got to as high as I think 135 consultants.
Okay.
So it was a pretty big swing. And that was another
hold on to your hat.
Oh my God. And like it's interesting because, Tricon isn't new. We're not a startup, but in a lot of ways, really manual, hadn't automated a lot of our processes and everything broke. And suddenly, it was taking us like 3 weeks to invoice in a team of like 5 people. So then you're not invoicing fast enough, which means you're not collecting fast enough. When you're growing significantly, like it was everything all at once. Like I don't want to belittle the MBA, but I feel like I got an MBA in like a year of like, here's all the stuff that you could potentially see and go through and the roller coaster. And we had to deal with the bank. We had to extend our line of credit. We had to justify that. We had to automate all of our processes that were no longer serving us, and then come out of it, somehow unscathed, and do that all during our like craziest time. So
when everything else was also a variable, and also this is where you were transitioning from being a project manager yourself to actually being a business owner.
Yeah,
just to not downplay
just
that.
Throw that in there too. Yeah.
On your journey, and I know I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, I'm going to get into project management. You got into that. Was the plan to eventually own your own business, or did that evolve out through opportunity and just going, hey, I'm into this. I want to do this.
It's kind of funny.
From my own playbook of like, this seems cool. I think I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was kind of an idea. I finished my BCom. And I was on the Van Wilder program. It was going to take me forever. So I ended up.
Good reference for those of you who aren't aware of that reference. Just go Google it.
Just go Google it. Like
you'll get sucked down a few YouTube rabbits. It'll be entertaining. He was cute back then too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyway, I ended up taking an accelerated BCom program to just get it over the finish line, and the quickest, like the easiest. Not easiest, but like the way to do that, the major to do that was entrepreneurial management. So that ended up being my major. And I swear to God, after like case study after case study of like what seemed like psychopathic entrepreneurs, I was like, there's no way I'm becoming an entrepreneur. Like after reading about all these crazy people who've
that's funny actually
been through these like incredible highs and like devastating lows, like no thank you, I'm gonna go get a cushy job with like a big company and like I'll be fine. So got into my first job out of school was actually as a headhunter, and that introduced me to the world of project management, and that I just interviewed PMs all day and was like, this is fascinating. I don't want to do what I'm doing, I want to do what you do.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that's how I kind of did a career switch, and I was lucky to kind of get my foot in the door with a startup, and just fell in love with it. And one thing led to another, and as a PM, it's always like you're judged by the size of your projects and the size of your team. So it's always like, okay, you've done a $50,000 project. Now do a $500,000 project.
Literally,
And
like
then,
it's like a badge sport. How much can you bench press? How far did you bike
yeah,
ride?
exactly.
How many push-ups did you do? That's which makes sense. How big's your team? What kind of revenue do you do? How big of a project do you manage? That makes
how
sense.
complicated was it, right?
Yeah.
And
size matters in projects.
I mean, yeah, it does. So I got
a
up
$5
to
million
that, like,
project and a $50,000 project, even though they might have the same pieces, the pieces are different size.
very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of got to a level where I was like, I feel really confident in my skills and abilities. And not to say that like I plateaued, but like I was like, what else is there that I could do? And then I had kids and being on mat leave and like up in the middle of the night alone with like someone who can't talk to you.
Lots of time with your
And
thoughts.
your thoughts, I was like, maybe there's another direction I can go. And then, once a thought and idea gets in my mind, I don't know if you're the same.
Hard to say.
It's kind of like becomes a bit of a virus. And then I was
I
like,
think they made a
no,
movie on it called Inception, I think.
I think so, yeah. And so I started dabbling a little bit in running my own small consulting firm, and then was approached by Roxanne Becker, who is the founder of Tricon, to
you kind of got headhunted into it. Interesting.
Nice. to like consider joining the company. And she was really clear, like she had been running it for, over, I think it was around 14, 15 years at that point, that, there was going to be a time where she wanted to retire and wanted to start finding a succession plan. And
okay, so I appreciate that. She was very she was very intentional. She was out there looking for a succession plan and was very upfront about that communication.
Yeah, so I knew full well, it wasn't going to happen overnight. But anyway, it was like, I swore to myself I would never do this, and it was crazy. But I needed a change, and I wanted to do something different. And I was like, this is probably the universe just like giving me the opportunity. So I jumped in with both feet.
And to your point about you now are the case study that gets shared with the current students about getting involved in a business that's very people-centric right at the start of COVID.
Yeah.
Or you could just say losing 60% of your revenue in a week.
Yeah. I mean, like there's a ton of case studies that could be done.
Unfortunately, during that time, there's a lot of people. I think I had the CFO for the Calgary Airport Authority, and they'd done some disaster planning of a 35% drop in revenue, and they were all like, "It'll never happen." And then they lost it. Then they lost 85% of their revenue.
Yeah,
he's like, "We just finished a disaster planning where we all were laughing at the 35% number that."
You're like, "Why am I doing this? This
exactly
is so unlikely." Yeah. And business continuity, schmatinuity.
And so there was a downturn in terms of just the world. Then there was a big uptick, and then did it level off? And now is the tariff fervor or ridiculousness just causing headwinds again, or had it already leveled out a little bit from the problem with highs and lows is that good and bad, they always level out.
Yeah, for sure. No, we've definitely like stabilized over the past couple of years, and really like locked in our processes, and all the efforts that we had to go through during that upswing are now paying real dividends. We can invoice in like 3 days with 2 people instead
efficiency, like how the business, how the business operates, which gives you, I'm assuming, a lot more next boom or next like, I guess maybe the tariffs aren't as bad. I'm being optimistic as we thought. Let's get those projects back online. You can spool up and spool down a lot more with a lot less drama. Let's call it that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's part of our model too of having a really intentional, lightweight internal team, and then all of our consultants are independent contractors. So, it allows us to scale up and scale down without having to, impact our internal operations too much. Obviously, 60% of our consultants lost their jobs in that week. But
that number translates to not just the number, it's people, right?
Yeah. But I mean, we were able to replace them all, within a few months of them.
When I think about that team, are they all over the country? Are they global? Or do they end up typically going in-house? Or is it literally a mix of almost all the different formulas?
Like our internal team or
No,
the
the consultants, those 80 people or 60 to
yeah.
80 that go to the client. Is some virtual? I'm just understanding that there is no one model anymore.
Yeah, it's, most of our clients are back in the office,
Okay.
sadly,
Yep.
in some way, shape,
That
or
has been
form.
the thing. Yes.
Yeah. So there was a point in time we had like a good 20% of our consultants were not in Calgary, which was cool and exciting because you could work
Well,
from
back to being the
anywhere.
recruiter, it just gives you a bigger pool of talent to choose
A
from, right?
100%. Yeah. There were so many benefits to it. And we picked up new clients. So we were able to expand geographically as well to BC and Ontario
Mm-hmm.
and Manitoba and Saskatchewan, which before, we didn't really have the ability to do because it was always like you need a boots on the ground
Of
salesperson
course,
and you
yes.
need
I've had
this and you
similar
need that.
conversations. Similar.
Yeah, but it's recoiled a little bit, and I would say we don't have as many outside of Alberta consultants purely because our clients are
Are here.
here,
Yeah.
and now they all want their consultants back in the office.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah.
Typically, these mid to larger clients taking on larger scale projects that typically also have longer timelines.
Yeah, most of our clients are in that enterprise space, so publicly traded or government or post-secondary institutions. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of been our table stake for, the 20 years we've been around. But what's been fun and cool over the past year is starting to get introduced to that mid-market. And what does that even mean? Because it's like,
Someone said,
you're
I was in a meeting there, and someone said SMB. I'm like, can you define that for me? Because that's you just said kind of everybody who isn't enterprise. And now
who
let's
isn't
define enterprise in
publicly
Canada because that's a different definition too.
Yeah, is it like 500 million or 50 million? Like the range is all over the map. But anyway, if you're privately held, and you're running a really great company, I think there is a missing market for consulting in that space because um it's too expensive for them to afford like the big four kind of
Yeah.
consultants where they come in with a bunch of people and processes and
It's kind of
charge
it's
crazy
it's an
rates
army
and
approach. Yeah.
yeah. So we've started to do some business with companies in that other range,
Okay.
which has been super fun. And, it's just a change and interesting to look at companies in a different way. I also find like I relate to them
I was going to
in
ask if there was a little bit more entrepreneurial to entrepreneurial mindset,
totally
roll up your
like,
sleeves, kind of get her done
yeah.
versus, we have layers of governance that, we've got to have 17 meetings before we can even have the meeting. Right.
Yeah, like talking to a manager of a department is different than, a CEO of a SMB
Yeah.
kind
Because then
of company.
you have a C-suite champion who's highly invested in, because it might be one of the biggest projects that company's undertaking to
Yeah.
improve or process, whatever they're doing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And back to people getting more aware of the value of project management. And we all know what goes wrong when you don't have one.
Yeah.
It's kind of
And they're
messy.
like,
It's can
what
be kind of messy.
happened? Oh, people managing this off the side of their desk, like, and it's in addition to their day job and no one tracking things. Like, I don't know where we went wrong. Like,
The problem is in the statement. I don't know
yeah.
exactly. You don't know where. And are you seeing more and more people getting into? I'm hearing more friends going, and we've even had some of our own team take formal training in project management. Our industry has been great for calling people PMs and having them not actually be certified. Incredible. I'll be the first one to do that.
Yeah.
Marketing loves to throw its titles around, but
Yeah.
I've certainly seen a significant shift. And for those individuals that get the formal training, I've seen the change in the output.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's
100%.
great to hear. That's great news. Yeah, there's tons out there. Like the PMP, the Project Management Professional certification, is sort of the gold standard for project managers, but not everyone needs that, right? If you're
Okay.
a manager and, from time to time you have to oversee an initiative within your department, like a good like 1 or 2 day crash course will set your head in the right direction
Appreciate
and
that.
force you to think like, oh, I don't have that. I'm gonna write a charter to make sure that I'm aligned on scope, schedule, budget. I'm gonna make sure that we have a go, no go meeting to make sure everyone's prepared before we push this thing out the door. Like it could be a few small checkpoints. That's all you need. You don't have to go full bore and get the big designation. So there's a ton of options out there in terms of like smaller micro credentials, big
Okay.
credentials. Like there's lots on LinkedIn Learning. Yeah, there's tons of options.
How discerning do you have to be? Because just because there's lots of information out there doesn't mean it's the right information to learn.
Yeah.
How discerning do you have to be when you're out there going, oh, I want to take a course. Oh, this looks good, but maybe I don't know. Any kind of markers or filters that you would throw at it to go, if these boxes aren't checked, maybe you should look for a different course.
Yeah, I mean, asking around is usually your best bet. Like I get tons of people that come to me and ask like, what course should I take? Or what certification?
You are my de facto
like,
expert. Absolutely.
Yeah, and or they come to my team or any of our consultants, like people will ask them what they recommend. And sometimes it's a little bit of like trial by error in terms of like, oh, I took this and it didn't really give me the information I needed or it was too jargony and I didn't understand a word this guy was saying or it just didn't land. So, it's a bit of a like, how much do you need? How much time are you willing to invest? Do you want to go take a full certification diploma course at, a post-secondary in their continuing education group? Or do you want to get the full PMP certification? Or, do you just need like someone to come in and do some corporate training for a day or two that's sort of customized to what you're looking for? There is a lot out there, but making sure you've got a clear understanding of what your requirements are and what kind of projects that you're managing will kind of dictate what you need, and ask around.
From a compensation perspective, is this, like a credentialed trade in the sense that, you have your credentials, you're going to get better comp? Is it echelon that way?
That's a good question. I would say no. Like there, I know a lot of PMPs out there who aren't great. I'll say it, pretty transparently. I know a lot of project managers who've been doing it for 20 years and they just like instinctively do all the PMP things. Like they've just got a really high
because it works
IQ
for them because they found
or
EQ.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I've come up with this model of doing it. I'm like, yeah, that's actually like the best practice one, but good on you. So I will say like, it's never a conversation with a client where I'm like, well, I don't know if you noticed, but they have their PMP. So therefore they should get an extra $5 or $10 an hour. It's usually like, this is this person's caliber. These are the size of projects they've managed before. This is the hell and back they've been through. And this is the clout they carry when running a project. Oh, and by the way, yeah, they meet your whatever credential requirements, which are important here, especially in Calgary, like being such a blue collar engineering construction heavy town.
A very
where
technically savvy town.
Yeah, like PEng is super important. And I think, does garner, a different salary band and rate and all that kind of stuff. PMP is more just like, okay, you've got the foundation of how to run a project. And that's good to know.
But do you also have the credentials experience to understand the technical aspects of this said project?
Yeah, I would say like with our clients, in my space anyway, it's like 9 times out of 10 experience trumps education.
Okay.
So like we have PMs who've got like psychology degrees, history degrees, like absolutely nothing to do with project management, and they just fall into it and get really good at it and they're passionate about it. And suddenly they have 20 years experience, and
Fair enough.
that person will typically.
Is it like a sales job that way where a lot of people just fall into it? Next thing you know, they've been doing sales for 10 years. I'm just picking sales because I know that's you rarely meet someone's like, I'm going to be a salesperson when I grow up. You don't usually hear that.
No.
Maybe not
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
I haven't heard PMP mentioned I don't spend a lot of time at the playground either, but I haven't heard a lot of people go, I'm going to be a project manager when I grow up. Maybe
It's
in 10 years, maybe in 20 years. I don't know.
Well, so now they have programs in post-secondary where you can major in project management,
Okay.
which is super interesting. Like I
still find it's interesting that you got a degree in entrepreneurship. That was
I
a
know.
dirty word when I was a kid. Like entrepreneur, sends you to the remedial class.
Oh, it's funny. And like my instructors were all consultants as well. It was fantastic. I went to Royal Roads in Victoria, and it was a really hands-on learning experience. And a lot of the instructors were like, if you were a real entrepreneur, you kind of wouldn't be here. You'd be out doing the thing. However, if you
It must have been a good course though, because over the years, you and I have realized that I know so many people that I've met indirectly that all went to that course together, and they're all friends of mine separately and individually. And I'm like, how the heck do you guys all know? Oh, we all went to this program together. So I think highly of the program just because of the people that spit out the other end.
Yeah, and so it was a really, really interesting program, but like project management and like management information systems and that kind of stuff like wasn't really talked about when I was doing my degree 20 years ago.
No, we don't need dates. No, it doesn't matter.
But in this day and age, I've got a mentee right now. I do mentorship with the CCAL program at the Haskins School of Business, and so their MBA program has a project management major that you can get right now. And I've got a student who's doing the program right now. I'm like, wow, like could I have gotten matched up better with someone? Great. Yeah, it's amazing. So we've come a long way for sure. And she's like, yep, I want to be a project manager. This is the career path that I want to go down. So it's definitely evolved, and well,
I'm certainly hearing about it more and more, and seeing it even in our own organization of the positive impact that it has. Okay, let's get into the juicy bits. Taking over, is that the right term? Becoming an owner of a business, while we hear about the silver tsunami and we hear about all the things in terms of the amount of businesses that are transitioning and are ill-prepared to transition, don't have a succession plan. You are kind of now on the other side of a successful transition. So for so many people listening, they're like, okay, get to the part where she gets to be the business owner.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, you touched on it at the beginning. Happy with it, like good process. Like again, sounds like you came into the right place. You got pulled in with an owner that knew they wanted to transition, but that's just the start of it. You've got to do all the things, right? So any high levels you want to give us just in terms of that journey for people going, hey, I'm either on one side of that or the other side of that.
I would just say like, expect the unexpected. And even if you have we have a really great relationship with the founder, and
to be clear, it was you and a partner. So it's you and Katie.
Yeah,
I've only met Katie once. You affectionately refer to her all the time as your other half, your better half. I think there's a variety of explanations.
my better work half. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I know your other better half too, and he's also. You surround yourself with great people, which I think is really that's a whole other podcast of. If you really want to be successful, surround yourself with awesome people.
Yeah.
Are you both even Steven in the business? You and Katie?
That's right. Yeah, we're both 50-50.
Cool.
And we took the transition pretty slowly. So I initially bought in like 20%, and just to kind of dip my toes in. And I wasn't sure, how big I'd want to go with it. And then we equalized. So
was Katie already there before? Did you both come in at the same time? She was there.
Katie is employee number 1 of Tricon. So she's been around since day one. She was.
Oh, that's an interesting dynamic. And then you two. Interesting.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she knows where all the skeletons are. She knows all the history. And if I'm ever I've been asked this question, or this is happening, or oh my God, I don't know.
Let me tell you why we do or don't do that.
Yeah, or here's what happened in 2007 and which forced us to, instate this policy. And I'm like, okay, good to know.
Interesting.
So she was already a partner already when I joined, and Roxanne was the founder, and then it was me. So yeah, we took a few steps into the journey, and then When we were ready, we did the full transition out, and now it's just Katie and I 50-50.
Okay, so sorry, and I know the names. Roxanne was the major shareholder. Then Katie was there. Were they 50-50?
No, it was, I
Okay.
think, she, Roxanne had the majority and Katie had a
How
minority.
critical was you and Katie getting connected early on? Obviously, you were, she knew there was a potential that this might be my new business partner
Yeah,
if
yeah,
all worked out. Because I'm assuming her and Roxanne had many conversations about that before.
for
I
sure.
met this girl, Kindra. Really, really, is she that good? Yes,
Yeah,
she is.
it's so funny. We've referred to it as a bit of an arranged marriage. And we
I think
were
that's fair. I think that sounds accurate.
it was. And through COVID and through all the things going on in the business, we had to deal with things
You
together.
guys
And
got
so
thrown into those case studies in real time, didn't you?
absolutely, and
You two are
like
partnering together. Here, solve this.
exactly. And I think as a result, there was a lot of trauma bonding, and which is not a bad thing in my opinion.
Shared experiences unite, and climbing the mountain together is more
Yeah,
bonding than like, oh, we just hang out and everything went well.
and everything was awesome. And she saw my strengths, I
Very
definitely
cool.
saw hers. And while we are the same age, we're both moms, we're both females, and in this industry for a long time. We are complete opposites in terms of like how we
I
roll.
believe in
I'm
that personally, as I have a very similar situation in my 15 plus year business partner relationship, and
Yeah,
same on values, different on everything else.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah,
So where we're aligned, it's always on the values and the goals. But I'm such an extrovert, and that's why
you don't say.
I know. And that's, part of my role in the company. And she's pensive and thoughtful and intelligent, and you know,
I could see where
um
that would be a nice balance.
it's been perfect, like we really are the yin and yang for each other. And yeah, it's worked out beautifully.
Did you get really clear early on? I joked my business partner. I used to do the which hats are we wearing? Are we wearing our shareholder hats today? Or are we wearing the CEO or the creative director or whatever roles we were in at the time and who reported to who?
Yeah.
I found that to be an area of discipline that really helped unblur the lines sometimes. Were you two, because I know you're very deliberate as a project manager, were you two very deliberate in terms of like my lane, your lane, and then like let's constantly reassess as we go down the road together?
Um, I honestly, like, we kind of just know
Okay.
whose lane is whose, because she's more operations. Like, she deals with all the finance, HR, IT, marketing,
Kind of
like
back
the
office for
running
lack of a
to
better
the
description.
business, and I sell the company. So I run sales, recruitment, our professional
Definitely
services
send
side
the
of
extrovert
things.
to the conference.
Yeah, right. So it's it's not a power struggle
It
between
works.
like get out of, that's my lane, get out
Hmm.
of whatever. If anything, those conversations are, is this our manager hat where we're like managing our team, or this like shareholder hat where we're talking to the bank or talking to our fractional CFO or talking to our lawyer kind of thing.
Okay, that
So
makes
that's
sense.
where we have to like, context switch, and like it is like severance. You have to like, okay, I'm in this.
Ding.
Yeah, I'm this person right now, and what do we need to talk about? So that's sometimes where we have to just like get clear on this is who we are in the conversation. But no, like again, like the beauty of the two of us is like it just kind
A
of flows.
successfully arranged marriage. Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Um, Share what you can or what you feel comfortable with. How did you go about the financial side of it? Was you rolled in with your real barrel money? I know you just mentioned banks, and I know sometimes the banks aren't your most favorite topic to talk about. So I know there's some history there. Just for anyone listening, what were some of the vehicles, or if you were telling it as a case study or presenting it? Hey, here's what we did. Here's what I would have done differently. Anything you want to share? Because I think lots of times that's the bias behind the curtain that people don't always talk about, and it's
Yeah.
scary when you're coming in from the outside and buying out somebody who's got a lot of value. 20 years of being a business owner, that's your thing. And it's also often your retirement
Yeah.
package as
Of
well. So
course.
there's a lot of pressure on that business to perform for the new owner and also support the past owner as they exit. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the delicate balance that like you can never predict, is like, someone's exiting and it is, their retirement, and they invested like so much sweat equity into the company, and you got to honor that. So yeah, a lot of negotiation, a lot of lawyers, a lot of bankers, accountants, all that kind of stuff, just to make sure we did it right. Like we've
That's
got,
awesome.
I remember going into the lawyer's office and there was a stack like this high, and I'm
The
like,
signing table where it goes
are
around the table. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, okay, where are we at now? And just like signing my life away. But, I knew what I was signing
Or
and I trusted.
signing onto your future. I don't know how
Yeah,
you want to frame that, but yes,
exactly.
I know. Yeah. Sorry, the
And it was,
marketer. I couldn't help. I could help to reframe.
thank you. Thank you for reframing that for me. And I was like, is this really necessary? And like, yeah, it is, right? Because you hear those horror stories where
Yeah, you
like
do.
people don't have USAs and people don't have,
What you don't know will kill you, right?
yeah, yeah. So, and then the buy-in portion of it, I put my own money in, like a ton of our savings.
Mhm.
So thanks, honey, if you're
Yep.
listening. Appreciate it. Um, that we had saved for our retirement is now invested in the company, and then yeah, we did
It's still for your retirement. It's just been reallocated.
just reallocated. You're so good at just like repositioning all of
It's easy
this.
because I'm on the outside looking at it. It's always easy to have the right
Yeah.
one-liners.
Get the right mindset, Kindra. And then yeah, we definitely like looked at a lot of different options and the pros and cons of each one. So what's the pro and con of like going to a family office if you have those kind of connections and
Yeah.
asking for financing that way? And what's the pro and con of like maybe going a VC route and maybe having potential for like more investment to get
Oh,
bought
nice. So
in.
you really explored. You looked
Yeah,
at all. Okay, interesting. That's
we
great.
did. And then we landed on just traditional debt.
Borrow the
Because
money, pay it back, and then they go away.
yeah, yeah. For us, it was, we weren't new in owning the company. We'd been running it for a few
Yeah.
years. So we
And you've
felt
got a
like
20-year track record. You've got some financials. You're not a
yeah,
startup. There's a few, not that the banks are awesome to deal with in any front, but you weren't in some of those other categories that would have made it worse.
yeah. And we wanted to like, we definitely want to grow, but we want to do it organically, and we want to do it. We don't want to like have to make decisions because,
Right.
a VC out there wants us to like, 10x our business in the next 2 years. And they're the ones that backed us. Like we wanted to grow it the way that we wanted to grow it and run it. And we just found that that vehicle was um, going to help us achieve our goals the best. Still, not without its pain and
Of
not
course.
without its negotiations and lawyers and paperwork and all that kind of stuff that you have to do. Um, but no regrets. It was the right approach. Um, you know, there's it's a long journey for us. I'm not looking to sell out in a couple years or have someone else's foreign interest
That's a
involved
very
in
different
my
business when you bought it to run it and grow it.
yeah, and that
You could
was
have started it from scratch, but instead you started a business that was already like on the roll for 20
mhm,
years in. Or 15 years in. There's a lot, and I think I love that option. I know there's lots of search funds, there's lots of things out there positioning to step in where a lot of those exactly like I don't know Roxanne is at all, but she ran it, wanted to exit. How do you do that? And there's so much of that statistically right now sitting out there. I think it's a huge opportunity
mhm.
for business potential upcoming business owners like yourself to step into a moving running operation. Then starting from scratch is hard.
Oof. I don't
Doing
know
a
if I
transaction is hard. Starting from scratch is I couldn't go back. I don't have it in me. I
I
couldn't do
don't
it.
know.
I
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
Sean
I
and
don't
I
want
were
to do it. I
talking
just don't
about
want to.
that the
I
other
just don't want.
day.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
I don't blame you. Like, and
No.
that's why I didn't either, right?
Yeah.
Not to say it's been easy in any way,
Well,
but
none of
like,
this is easy. Let's be crystal clear. Whoever
but
sold
like,
you the lineup on easy is not true.
no. But starting from scratch is absolutely no
Yeah.
joke. And you see the stats out there, like 90% don't make it the past 1 or 2 years. It's hard, and to be able to get into something that's already been up and running, has processes, has clients, has some tools and all that kind of stuff. And I get to be part of, building and growing and making it better and adapting it, for the next generation is super exciting to me. And
That's
for
awesome.
me, this is my job for the next
Until it's not, yeah. Until
yeah,
you start thinking about whatever that. But there's a
yeah,
point also where thinking about the future is great, but you're in it today, and you're doing the today.
yeah, yeah. And I want to
And
be
the
in
future
it.
is a couple of years. What happens in 10 years is one thing. And I was
Yeah.
talking to someone the other day, and they used to do 5-year plans. Then they went to 3 years. Now they're doing 6-month plans because they're like, how do you know? Like, it's silly. You can have
Oh
a vision.
God.
You can have a vision, but a real hard plan, we're going to revise it every 5-6 months.
Oh yeah, yeah,
We know where we're kind of headed, but it might change. Curious, nuts and bolts question, kind of going back a couple cycles here in our chat. How did you put a pin in the valuation? Was that a personal dialogue? Did you use outside? Because that is that's a tricky one.
yeah. It. One of my accountants said it best is like the valuation is what you're willing to spend. And you can bring all the business valuators you want in, you can get your accountants and
You can spend a
CFOs
fortune on
and
that as well.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And we did use some math, and luckily we had some formulas written already in our USA
Oh,
in
okay.
terms of
Again,
like
back to the value of a good USA
exactly.
that has all the things in it. Interesting.
Yeah, but it was,
Nice.
it's still up for like
Of course.
debate
Well,
and
you have to be
conversation.
happy, and they have to be happy.
Yeah.
There's still two people
Oh
on
no,
either side of
no.
a transaction.
Another good thing I learned is like a fair negotiation is when both parties walk away not happy about the deal. And that's how you know it's fair.
Have you been hanging out in the Mark Raffin School of Negotiations?
I mean, yes, he's definitely like
I know
explained that to
the
me.
win-win, which he is against.
Yeah, it's just everyone's got to give, right? And you're not going to
Mhm.
be thrilled about it. But it's going to be fair. And what's more important is that, you finalize the deal and you're able to move
Yeah.
on and everyone feels like, okay, that
Well, I
was
think
good.
inherently as deal makers, we all want to get a little more or pay a little less. Like
Everyone, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I
I
can't.
just talked to a friend of mine who's traveled the world and loves to negotiate. She's a Quebecer and she's aggressive. And her and her husband were retiring in Canmore, and they almost lost a house because she wouldn't give up $1,500. And finally, her husband was like, honey, we're going to lose the deal. And
In the
they
grand
did.
scheme of
The
things.
seller took it off the market, and she had to write a letter explaining and apologizing. And then she ended up paying, I think, $3,000 more. But she got so
Really?
caught up. If you ever been in a bazaar somewhere and you're arguing over 5 cents on a bottle of water, just
Yeah.
because that's what you do there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they didn't sell the water and you're still thirsty. And you're like, huh, shit, that didn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely times where it's like the fight was worth it, or whatever. But there's also time where it's like, you know what, we all got to compromise here in the spirit of like getting this done.
Because do we
And
still want to get a deal done? Yeah. Do we still want to go for it? 'Cause
well,
unless
and
someone's
the
really willing to throw a grenade in the middle of the room, we still want to get a deal done, right?
yeah, and the longer you drown it out, the more money it costs you, right? Because
Both sides. Yeah. Both sides.
yeah,
Mhm.
so it's
We all know
better
who wins
to
in that deal, Dolores.
yeah.
So it's now so when was the day? Because obviously Roxanne's fully out of the business now, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe it was April 1st, 2024. So,
Yeah, still, yeah.
oh my God, it's
Oh,
the,
it's today. You thought what? I'm
oh
like,
my
that was not a plant, everybody.
God, no, holy crap.
My
Yeah,
dog
no.
just got excited. She's like, what? There's something happening going on. I love it.
Yeah, it was the end of
Well,
March.
congratulations.
We inked it, and yeah, so I guess it's been a full year now. So
Exactly. Yeah, no April Fools.
yeah, no fooling.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I've had the
Thank you.
privilege of being around the table and being able to observe this and watch the
Absolutely.
story.
Yeah,
And
you were.
someone who's also at a point with my business, and I'm like, I wonder what the next 5 years looks like. I wonder this mythical rolling 5-year plan I have that I'm not sure what it is. But love hearing the stories of when it's successful. And like you said, everybody leaves a little unhappy. You want to reframe that any way you want. I'm happy, but I would have been happier, but you're good. And we got a deal done. And now you have a viable business that you're able to take forward. And when you look to the road ahead, it's on your shoulders now. And, someone who's really into that space, that's a great feeling. It's not the other way around. I think that feels awesome.
Yeah, it does.
I know you enough to know you feel the same.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's, a huge responsibility that Katie and I do not take lightly. We are helping I mean, with our internal team, like 90 people pay their mortgage every month.
Yeah, when
every
you say
month.
60%, that's not a number. That's a head count. That's humans. And I think that that's really important to take that out of the spreadsheet and go, wow, like if this works out, we can give more people opportunities.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like we give people opportunities. We open the door that maybe they wouldn't have access to otherwise. And, as a result, they can feed their families, they can buy really beautiful homes, they can, upgrade their lives and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that's like something that I take a lot of pride in. And I'm glad that like we're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Like we are contributing to the Alberta and beyond economy and helping people, move their lives forward.
You're you're this interesting catalyst of trust, because I'm a large enterprise brand. I trust you to get me the right people. Those people might be the right people, but that big enterprise brand doesn't know Joe from Calgary, who's fantastic, or Jane, that's fantastic. They don't know them. They don't trust them. You vet them. I trust Tricon. So therefore you are really conduiting that into them getting the resources they need, and those individuals also getting those opportunities. You're really in the trust business, aren't you? Sorry.
Yeah.
My brain is like, what are you really selling? You're actually the trust that you will provide them with the best people to get their project done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, we run on that. And if it's not going well, who's the first call, like person that they call?
We're going to fix
me,
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And we do. Because we also believe in consulting with a conscience and doing right by the client, doing right by the consultant. Like we're not in it just to like change request our clients to death and increase scope because, you changed this line and this statement of work and da da da. Like it's just do a good job, be a good human, and things will go well for you.
Mic drop moment. Kindra, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story. Again, you and I have the privilege of knowing you, and I always go through these episodes, I didn't know that. I didn't know that as well. The value of just being curious and having a conversation, and I think you're building a fantastic business, and I love your story. I think it's very inspirational on a lot of fronts, from your journey of like, I don't know, I'm going to go here, I'm going to try this, to then becoming a business owner. I think it's a fantastic path. It can be a lot, but the privileges and like, it's a hard work, but the payoff can be great. So I'm a huge advocate. I'm unemployable, so I have to run my own business. I don't have an option.
Well, yeah.
There's no going back for this guy.
But I look at you and, the business that you run and your legacy. And, when I was sitting around that table during tech, it was so inspiring and so motivating that it did give me the confidence that like, I can do this. Where there was a lot of
lovely thing to say.
So I see, you as like a successful entrepreneur, and hopefully I get to be, when I'm a big girl, I get to be like Tyler Chisholm one day.
No one has ever said that in that way to me before. That is very lovely. This is the gushy part of the podcast. People are like, oh my God, these two. But that was lovely. Thanks for coming on. Congratulations on the business. And finally, you just agreed to come on the show. I had to chase you for so long. Like, it was ridiculous. How do people get a hold of you? What's your favorite? Do you like LinkedIn? Your Instagram is fabulous. I love especially the outfits. One of my favorite parts of your Instagram. And your humor gets me every time. But if people want to follow you and get inspired or get connected, what's your favorite way?
LinkedIn's probably the easiest way for like the general
Kindra.
public. It's professional Kindra for sure. But to connect and learn more about project management, or if you need help with project management at your organization, LinkedIn's the best way.
And you have a beautiful website. I do appreciate a good aesthetic, and your website is beautiful and it's informative. That's a nice combination. Because beautiful, if it doesn't get me what I want, it's a business website, but it does both of those jobs incredibly well. So I appreciate a good brand, and I love things well put together. So I would encourage people to go check out triconsolutions.ca as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kindra.
Thank you, Tyler.